What's up? I'm here with Zakk Colburn, owner of Personal Trainers Business Incubator. We did a case study video a couple months ago about a VSL that I wrote for them. But in this video today, we're going to be talking about the role that YouTube plays in Zakk's business, maybe give some updated stats on that VSL because it's still running, and just get his thoughts on being an entrepreneur that runs a business, with the backbone of content. So without further ado, Zakk, if you just want to say hi and introduce yourself.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? I'm Zakk. I run a program called PTBI, which is short for Personal Trainers Business Incubator. Me and Adam talk about content all day long. Adam helped me out a ton when it came to building our VSL and also building out our YouTube content strategy. So, I'm happy to chop it up and talk about whatever we need to.
Thanks, Zakk. So yeah, I think just getting right into it, leaving with where we left off last time, that VSL is still running. Could you just talk about that funnel specifically, if you're running another funnel, and then how much you think it's roughly done since we last talked in
Dude,
November?
yeah, I mean, in November, I think we were running DM ads and the VSL, and what we found was that the VSL was actually outperforming the DM ads by a significant amount. And I don't have the exact numbers off the top of my head, but the VSL has been producing majority of our revenue all of 2025 so far. Actually, it's been producing, yeah, pretty much all of our revenue all of 2025 so far, because we run ads to the VSL, and then we also have the VSL in all of our organic social platforms. And so everyone is coming into the VSL, and it's been doing really, really well.
Wow. Okay, cool. If you had a ballpark figure just to throw out there, like what do you think that it's produced?
I mean, so in January, I think we did 186K. And then in February, we did 160K. In March, I think March was a little bit lower. I think we finished around 125. And pretty much all of those leads were coming through the VSL. All of those leads and revenue were coming through the VSL.
That feels good to hear. That feels good to hear because I remember like sitting down and like spending an entire night like kind of crafting, brainstorming, and I probably sent you this like massive schizophrenic dump of a Google Doc, and you
Yeah.
were like, I remember you said in the last video, you're like, Adam gives very detailed copy, and then I went and I looked back compared to what I do now, and I was like, damn, I gave you a lot, but you guys trimmed it down, and it's a good video, so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I guess now I know for a fact when I was on the team that you guys would have a sort of secondary like YouTube VSL to pre-sell calls before they would actually, in between getting on with the setter and the closer. Could you just talk about that, the role that it's played, and just your thoughts on how that works in the business?
Yeah, no, that's probably one of been the key pillars of the success in our sales process, but also what we teach our clients too, because the thing is with ad leads that are coming in from cold traffic or anyone in the sales process, you can't expect them to do their homework on you, and they are only really going to know what you tell them. And so how do you ensure and guarantee that your prospects have the exact information you want them to know? You could hope that they find your website and go through your testimonials. You can hope that they look up your client case studies. But what if you had a system in place to guarantee that they're going to see your best testimonials, best case studies, and learn a little bit more about you and the brand? So that's where we came up with coming out with what we call an indoctrination video, which is essentially a webinar. Whereas a webinar, sells people on booking a call or maybe even checking out right there. We just send it to them before the sales call. So that way, by the time that they're finished with that video, they're pretty much ready to buy. And when they get on the sales call, the sales team doesn't have to do much backtracking in terms of like education on the brand and the program, et cetera, et cetera. It's more so just logistics because they're coming into the call with all the information we want them to know in order for them to be ready to buy.
Yeah, I know this might not be best practice either, but I'm pretty sure at least Ryan, or I don't know if the whole team does, like if they don't watch that video before the call, like they will be more likely to try to get them to reschedule unless they have to take the call then, right?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, I've gotten upset with them a few times because they will cancel or reschedule the call. And I'm like, yo, what's going on here? And they're like, they didn't watch the call. And what we found is that it's almost not even worth taking the call if they haven't watched that video, because there's too much of a bridge that needs to be gapped in order for them to go from just hearing about us online to being ready to be buyers. So that video does a really, really solid job at bridging that gap to where an ad lead can discover us 2 days ago, and then today we're getting a 5K PIF with income they didn't, or with money they didn't even know they had. So that video helps bridge that gap.
Yeah, well, that's insane. Anything else on just YouTube in general? I know it's not like a main source of acquisition for you at this point, or even if it ever was, but like you do get some people coming in from there. And I know for a fact when I was on the team, like people that saw those videos were generally, I'd consider like a better tier of lead. But if you had to guess, how many leads would you get that come in off there, or what percentage of leads, just come in and get sent there, and just your thoughts on that?
Are you talking about our YouTube leads?
Yeah, just to the YouTube channel in general, not just the indoctrination video.
Yeah, I find that the YouTube leads are way more aware. What I find is that they're coming in with a little bit more knowledge on myself. They're a little bit more warmed up because they've received training from me. They like my personality. They've gotten to know me on a deeper level than what they can see on Instagram. And they've already consumed a little bit of, our process. So like, we teach DMs, we teach people over the phone sales. And so if they can learn a couple of those lessons already that's within the course, they're already bought into our philosophy and methods. They come to the call and be like, oh yeah, I watched this video and this video and this video. I'm ready for the full thing. So it's a much easier sell because the trust is higher. There's already a little bit of buy-in, and they've already displayed that they're interested in what we have to offer rather than us having to sell them on the opportunity of what we do.
Yeah, true. And I just wanted to touch briefly on like channel history too, because you've pretty much had it the entire time, like that you started PTBI, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I mean, dude, I've had this YouTube channel since 2014. So about 6 years before I started PTBI.
So I remember when we were at the event, like one of your top students, Francis, was like really, really bullish on like, you got to be posting on YouTube. You got to be doing that. Like, how did you know to start documenting there? And what was your thought process of going back like over 10 years ago, starting that channel?
What would I do differently?
Well, I guess, how did you even know to think, like, what was your thought process about like, oh, I'm going to be on YouTube instead of just being somewhere else? And just what were your thoughts and your visions for the channel?
Yeah, well, back then it was more so about building a personal brand. This is back in 2014 when, Gymshark was just getting started. There's fitness influencers like Christian Guzman who just started on YouTube. And so for me, it wasn't necessarily like to build a business. It was more so I just need to get online and build an audience. I was working at a yogurt shop. I was bussing tables during this time. I was getting my personal training certification. There's a lot of things that I was doing in real life that I knew I didn't want to do forever. And so YouTube was going to be my escape plan. And I was creating content on YouTube, documenting my journey, sharing my knowledge and tips and things that I was learning with no real direction of how it was going to serve me. I just knew I needed to make content. And then once I launched PTBI, I understood that this was going to be the channel in which I can nurture leads and bring people into my ecosystem for my business.
I had a story from a client recently who back in December, he was kind of in the same boat, like early on, like in his career, like he was not thinking about starting a business, but he's like an affiliate marketing guy. So he's making his money that way. And long story short, he approached me and was like, I want to commit to 6 months of YouTube up front because I just believe in the value of having this as an asset, this channel. And I don't even know what I'm going to do with it. I don't care if I make a dime, but I just know it's worth having. And then it's funny, like within 30 days, he made all of his money back for the entire 6 months. And now he's doing at least 10K a month off a consulting program with like just YouTube. So I think it's funny that like, even if you don't have anything to sell at first, it's still worth starting, and because it will compound over time.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the exact same thing for me too. Cause like you could know that you want to do something, but not know what that something is and still should be making YouTube content. So that way, when that thing clicks and you do find that thing, you already have the audience, the momentum, and the content up to be able to pivot that channel for whatever you need it to. But at first, you just need to be creating content. Doesn't necessarily matter what it is.
Yeah. Any tips or advice that you'd want to leave with people aside from that? Because I think honestly, that's a great message in and of itself. Just start before you're ready. Anything else just about creating content, whether it's YouTube or just any video content that you would want to leave with people watching this video?
I would say start with sharing the things that you are learning personally on your journey, because that's where it started. That's where it started with me. Is I spent a lot of time reading, listening to podcasts, and then I would dissect that content myself. And so when you start creating content yourself to build it into an asset, you might not exactly know what you want to share or know what the content or channel is going to be about just yet. But if you could just start by sharing what you're learning and what you're going through and your interpretations of the things that you're learning that's a really great place to start. So read a book and then make a video talking about what that book meant to you, what you learned from that book and what it means, how it applies to your life, and take your own spin on it. Listen to a podcast and do the same exact thing. Share what your thoughts are on the podcast and your own spin on thing. And then once you start to get direction in terms of like what you're going to do for your business, you essentially just do that with industry knowledge and become the expert on that topic. For myself right now, I can take a fitness coach that's doing 10K per month, and I can break down their business and give my audience my thought process and my what I would change here, what they're doing well, and it pretty much essentially just give my commentary to provide value. But that evolved. That's evolved from where it started, which was just me reading books and then sharing my thoughts and what I learned on that book and how it applies to my life. So the content can evolve, but it should just start with what you're currently learning at the moment and giving your own 2 cents on that topic.
Perfect. And then last question, if someone was, and I know you touched on it briefly there, but if someone was at 100K a month or they were close and they wanted to get there, but they hadn't started YouTube yet, would you tell them anything differently about what kind of content to make at that point now that they're focused?
Yeah, I mean, if they're currently making 100K per month, I feel like I would say that there's 3 main types of content to make at that level. Number one is personal brand content. So content about the founder, content about like, the lifestyle, the aspiration, the dream, the behind the scenes, right, of the day-to-day of the founder. The second kind of content is going to be like actual training. So, actually teaching people something tangible and tactful that they can find within your program so they can get value learning from you for free to eventually want to get up into the paid stuff. And then the third type of content I would say is like, if you are going to do a podcast, have that on its own channel where you can just interview other industry experts and bring their audiences into your audience. But those would really be the 3 types of content that I would create on YouTube, doing 100K per month plus, looking to get to the next level.
Cool. All right, Zakk, I appreciate it. Hope to do another one of these soon and check in on the VSL and see it's printing more cash. And I appreciate you doing this. So that was it. You guys heard it from Zakk. So we will see you in the next video. Peace.
Peace.